From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, and in just a few moments, we're going to be
The
joined
hardest
by.
and baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV is with you. Now, again, you are disrespectful to me. I have no idea why you don't do everything that I tell you about me.
First
You
of
give
all,
me all the
I don't
praises.
tell anybody that because it's not true.
It is true.
No,
You're
it
just
is not. You
jealous
are a
and
liar
so
and a freaking
everything
sham.
that I do is jealous. But that's okay.
I ain't jealous of you.
Let's go by the fact that our savior now is the Giants' new quarterback.
If you're referring to Daniel Jones, he's not a savior.
Well, not according to, it may not be for you, but there are some people that are saying we should have started him first. I'm sure his coach is jumping for joy, even though if it wasn't for the kicker's fault that he missed it, they would have lost that game. But was he competitive? Did he do what he had to do? Or was it that Eli Manning has to start up his engine first? Because pregame is nothing for some folk. So, and the way you hear some of these people on some of these talk shows, oh, they should have started him. Eli Manning, the guys that liked Eli Manning, but they didn't like Eli Manning. Now all of a sudden they're calling for they should have started him. And as I said, his coach must be happy and ecstatic, even though they won by 10. And then the poor Jets. Do you think they'll go after a new quarterback? Because there's a new crop of quarterbacks next year coming up.
As far as the Jets are concerned, Sam Darnold is their quarterback of the future. As soon as he recovers from mononucleosis, he's going to get his job back. That's one thing. And for another, the Jets could have played a street ball team, and they could not have looked any worse than they did yesterday against the Patriots. That was men among boys in that game.
But
there's no going about it. I mean, the Jets are just going through a rebuilding process, or at least I hope they're going through a rebuilding process, because some of the guys that they have on that defense right now, I'm telling you, it's as if they did not know how to tackle yesterday or did not know how to cover.
Well, I agree with you on that, but my point with a backup quarterback is a backup quarterback should be just as good as your starting quarterback, right? Now,
the Jets had two after Sam Darnold, but Trevor Siemian is out for the year. Now they're down to Luke Falk. I mean, what else is this? What else are they supposed to do?
Sign Carl Kaepernick.
Yeah, I
doubt that too.
I doubt they're ever going to bring that young man in. In fact, I don't even think that young man is going to be able to resuscitate his career anyhow.
Well,
not even in the XFL, if you ask me.
Well, that settlement that he had, that he took a settlement, and I'm sure they put a clause in that saying, "Don't talk about what happened." I'm sure they did, but. Because
another gag order on his First Amendment rights.
Yeah, well, it does happen in any job. It does happen in any job, in any federal government job or some important job that they'll say you have a gag order for about 4 years, or you can't talk about what happened because of top secret things that you deal with and so on. That does happen. That does happen in jobs and so on, but. My point is that Ben Roethlisberger is out for the season, and they have this new quarterback that they swear up and down he's the second coming.
You mean
That
Mason
he may be
Rudolph?
Yeah.
Mason
they're
Rudolph
grooming-
is the guy that they've been grooming to be Big Ben's successor for about a year or two.
Exactly. So this is what I'm saying. If, let's say the Jets get another quarterback next year, let's say just for kicks, Donald gets hurt. The second quarterback is supposed to be just as good as the first one. Then you know what? You have two good quarterbacks. You have two good
Hector,
quarterbacks for 3 years.
the idea of a quarterback and a backup quarterback is for the backup quarterback, who is progressively younger, to succeed the more veteran, older quarterback. That's what the
Okay.
Steelers are doing now with Big Ben and Mason Rudolph.
Okay, but
Sam Darnold's only in his second year.
yeah. But
You
when
want to give up on the kid already?
No.
And the
no.
kid's
I'm not
sick.
Saying, I'm not saying to give up on the kid. No. I'm not saying to give up on the kid. No.
It sounds like you already are.
No. What I'm saying is that to have as your second quarterback just as good as your first.
Unless the Jets want to get a proven veteran.
Because I don't understand. You have a team, right? I'm sure there's lots of quarterbacks out there, but for some strange reason, your second quarterback, your second stringer, is for some reason are bad. Even your third stringer is bad.
They usually don't go to the third stringer unless the first stringer is hurt.
Yeah.
And the second stringer is just either dreadful or also suffers a debilitating injury.
But my point is that you have those guys for a reason, for backup, in case something happens, break glass, and you have to do what you have to do. Now, you give them 2 games, 3 to warm up, and then you got to show something. Because if you don't show something that you're worth being on that team, then why have you as a second and third quarterback if you're not going to win games? That's my whole point. When you're on a team, that second string and that third string is like coming off the bench and everything else. It's like being on a basketball team, the 12th guy. You made that team because you were good. Now, if they ever use you, you have to show your skill and not be the person that, he's great in practice, but then when he does in a game, he doesn't show how good he is. Because there have been some players that have been great in practice. Their teammates that say he's been great in practice, but then when it comes to a game, you don't see this greatness. I don't know if he freezes up.
Is there a point to this whole thing? Because it seems like all I'm getting is the runaround.
Well, the point I'm trying to say is that the Jets, even though they played as if they didn't know how to play, and like you said, I agree with you on what you said, but I think every team should try to have a real good second, a backup quarterback, a real good backup quarterback.
They do have a backup quarterback.
A good
but
one.
Usually the backup quarterback is holding the clipboard because
but
their
he's supposed
first
to be
stringer
good,
is
though.
already established.
But he's supposed to be good at least.
Some of them are good, some of them are bad.
Exactly.
Besides, who are the Jets supposed to go to now that their first stringer, their supposed franchise quarterback, is ill, and the second guy is gone for the year? Who are they going to go to after Luke Falk? Who's out there? After Colin Kaepernick, I don't see anybody.
Well, there's always someone that you can come, that just retired, that you can bring them back. That's just an option. Or, with all their scouting abilities and so on, you mean there's not one football player, not one quarterback out there from the Canadian Football League or someone else out there?
They're not going to go to Canada. That's ludicrous. Unless his name is Jeff Garcia or Joe Theismann, they will never, ever go that route.
There have been scouts go anywhere in the world to find what you. If if you hear a buzz, scouts will go through YouTube to find what they have to look for.
We know that.
They will go anywhere and everywhere in the world to find who they're looking for. So, yes, they will go to Canada. They will go anywhere. Because if they go for punters, even though that's a little different because they even use soccer players as punters.
Imagine we know that.
Imagine Messi, Orlando playing football as punters.
I would probably see them more as place kickers than punters.
Yeah, but that would be kind of cool, though. But that's,
Now, you mentioned the Giants earlier.
Yes.
Let me tell you, for all of the discussion about what should have been done with Daniel Jones and or Eli Manning, all I can tell you is what's done is done. The kid started yesterday, and he mounted an unfathomable comeback. And let me tell you, the kid brought so much hope and so much buzz to that franchise. It's as if we were looking at Eli during his second year in the league when he mounted that comeback against the Broncos all those years ago. Seeing what Jones did on that field yesterday, he looked athletic. He was looking for receivers downfield. And when Saquon Barkley hurt his ankle, and his loss is going to be really, really felt by the Giants. He's going to be out between 6 and 8 weeks now. When Saquon Barkley hurt his ankle yesterday, Daniel Jones kept his composure, and he looked at his teammates in the eye and said, let's get this win. You don't see that out of certain veterans. That kid commanded the sideline and the huddle and the line, and he looked outstanding. And the way he was able to see the field on that game-winning touchdown, if that were Eli, I guarantee you he would have been tackled at maybe the 2 or 3 yard line. But Daniel Jones could run. And for all the stuff about him not having the statistics that most college quarterbacks have, throwing for 3,000 yards, there are certain quarterbacks who don't really have those eye-popping stats when they get their start in the college game. Did anybody see Brett Favre do what he did when he came out of Southern Mississippi? Did anybody see Johnny Unitas do what he did when he came out of Louisville all of those years ago? Whatever happens the rest of this season, Daniel Jones is going to give the Giants and the fans a lot of hope. And with that hope, there's going to be a lot of expectations. And something tells me that kid is going to feed off of those expectations and run with them.
Now,
and as far as that missed kick by the Buccaneers yesterday, do you know that they deliberately took a game of delay penalty, which set them back 5 yards? Why would you take a delay of game penalty and cost yourself 5 yards? Those 5 yards were so valuable for the Buccaneers yesterday. There's a reason why the Buccaneers are being run the way they are and are the team that they are. Because their clock management sucks.
Well, I can tell you this much. There have been times where, for some strange reason, a kicker feels, because of the wind or whatever goes through the mind of a kicker, they'll take the penalty, because I've seen this before, and they feel better kicking at a certain point on the field.
I don't buy that
So-
for a
so-
second.
no,
You
it's true,
never,
though.
ever cost yourself 5 yards on a potential game-winning field goal. It's a no-no.
Yes, but if you did it on
now the
purpose-
Buccaneers are going to be questioned about that for the next couple of days.
Now, did they do it on purpose, or did
They did that on purpose.
Okay, they did
Because
that on
Bruce
purpose.
Arians said that supposedly his kicker had more of a feel 5 yards further back than he did from maybe where they were placed earlier, which was the 23-yard line.
Well, that could be true. That's what I'm saying. A lot of kickers, most kickers will have that feel of, you know what, my best bet is to kick it out further because my leg is strong and it may pull it to the right, may pull it to the left. And it does happen. People may not accept it, but it does happen.
Yep.
Now, that game that everybody saw or seen, and
There were more Giant fans at Raymond James Stadium than there were Buccaneer fans.
because
Which just goes to show you how big of a population of New Yorkers there are in the state of Florida, first of all.
Oh, yeah.
And second of all, it was actually refreshing to see that kid on the field. I mean, granted, he doesn't have the strongest arm. He doesn't have a cannon, but some of his throws were very, very accurate and on point, and he looked really, really quick on that field.
But here's the thing. When we talked before, last show, you said you would give Eli Manning half the season.
And what happened? It lasted 2 games.
Exactly. Now,
Mostly because Eli was not generating enough scoring. He accounted for 31 points in the first 2 games.
if you look at the sports thing, if you look at the score, they were only down by 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And normally, when you're that far away, you can catch up very quickly.
Yeah.
It's not as if they're getting blown out like certain teams, okay, like the Jets. It's not as if they're getting blown out. You know, when you're down by 1 touchdown or 2, you're still in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we're talking about management wanted Eli. The coach always wanted this guy here.
Mm-hmm.
So now that he's doing on his first game very, very, very well, he did a nice job. Now all of a sudden, people are calling up the radio shows and saying, "Oh, he should have started first because," and then let's say, for sake of argument, Eli would have won those 2 games. Oh, and then you would have heard, "Oh, I'm glad Eli, started first, and Daniel Jones is sitting down because Eli's better and all that." I mean, it's 50-50. It's like a wave of people don't know what they want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like the fruit of the day.
Again, coulda, woulda, shoulda. You can't play on what ifs. I mean,
But do you stick with your? But I'm saying, he's a veteran quarterback.
after
you
what
stick with
Daniel
him for
Jones
one
did
more
yesterday,
game?
I ride that train for as far as he can go.
But my argument is, he's a veteran quarterback that has done your team, given you 2 Super Bowls, and he's played and he's done a lot, getting you in a lot of places. And
He became a borderline Hall of Famer for all he's done for that franchise.
And you're just going to give him 2 games?
Because
That's
Daniel
my
Jones
point.
played better yesterday.
Again,
That's why.
Daniel Jones had the blessing of his coach. Because the coach did not want Eli Manning in the beginning. Now, is he a number 6 quarterback?
Then why
he drafted at
the
number 6?
coach keep on saying that he had a lot of fondness for Eli in the first place? You don't bench the guy after making such praise like that.
You want to bet? Because in the beginning, if you hear some of the things that he says, it's management that wants me to play him, basically. He blamed management. He wanted, because he sang the praises.
Well, of course,
Jones,
management
right?
has to be blamed because it was Mr. Mara that wanted Eli in there in the first place.
Right, but he sang the praises of this kid because he got him at number 6. He saw something. Then when he tried to put him in, he tried to make it a competition to see who would start first. Right? If you hear most of his interviews, it sounded as if, I respect Eli, but I'd rather have my boy in first than you. I'd rather have my boy in first, rather bench him. That's what it sounded like.
And it didn't sound like that.
You have to hear some of the things that he said because it's borderline, I really don't want you to play. And now he's going to sing the praises even better by going, ha ha, I told you so. But it's only one game.
Let me fill you in on something. The NFL is a very cold and calculated sport. People call it not for long for a reason. Because some guys will not last for long in this game. There are certain players, veteran players, rookies, who will not be long for this game if they don't produce results immediately.
Yeah.
This happens to everyone.
Yeah.
Should Eli have been treated with a little bit more respect? Maybe.
No, yes.
But you have to ride the gravy train that is Daniel Jones right now because, quite frankly, the kid just played better.
Right.
Not only did he play better in the preseason, let me give you his numbers from yesterday's game. 23 of 36, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he lost a fumble, and this is something that he has to fix. He's got to take better care of the football. Hopefully that'll come with some practice time. But right now, this kid is exactly what the Giants are looking for right now. And with week 4 coming up, if I'm not mistaken, the Giants have the Redskins coming up. An 0-2 team that's coming off a bye. An 0-2 team that has 2 pretty damn good quarterbacks in their arsenal. One of which is a rookie, Dwayne Haskins, who could take over at any time. The other being Case Keenum, who, if I'm not mistaken, led the Vikings to an NFC Championship game. The Giants have got to be on their P's and Q's all week and watch as much video on the Skins as possible because the Skins are going to be looking for a W. They're winless right now, and they're hungry.
I'm not saying that Daniel Jones doesn't deserve a chance. I'm not saying that at all because you want the team to win, okay? But when you have a veteran quarterback that has done so much for you, and as I said before, you have a coach, and he's thumbing his nose up on management going, you see, I told you so. Basically, because I said, if you listen to all of his interviews and so on, you'll see that he basically didn't want him. Because in the beginning, he says, we'll make it a competition. We'll do this. We'll do that. And we're going, and some people are going, well, give this guy, give Eli Manning what his just due.
Are you trying to win games, or are you trying to bow down to your veteran quarterback?
No,
I mean, this has gotten to. It sounds to me like you're trying to bow down to the veteran quarterback here.
No.
That's what it sounds like to me.
You said yourself that you would have given Eli Manning at least half the season.
And what happened? He had 2 games, and all he could come up with was 31 total points.
But my point
you can't win games like that.
But even you said.
Yes, I did.
Because of what he's
but
done
I'm not
in
the one
past.
that made the decision.
No, I
Pat
understand
Shermer
that.
did.
No, I understand that. But I'm saying that even you said I would have given him six games. Okay, fine. Right? I probably would have given him 4 games. 4 games, depending upon how he's playing. Right? You know, if he's losing by a touchdown or 2 and seeing how the defense played, because that first game that they lost was the defense's fault. You got to remember, you got to
this
put
isn't
blame.
the first time that the Giants had to make a tough decision regarding their quarterback. Does the name Phil Simms ring a bell?
Yes.
Phil Simms lasted 15 years. That guy was booed loudly the day he was drafted in 1979. I remember the image of that video from NFL Films. The late Pete Rozelle called out quarterback Phil Simms from Morehead State. And what did I hear? I heard nothing but boos from the fans. There are much more better players than the Giants could have picked in the top 10. You know, Otis Anderson was available in the top 10. Turns out he wound up being traded 6.5 years later to the Giants by the Cardinals. But at the same time, Phil Simms gave them 2 Super Bowls, over 30,000 yards in passes, and a lot of critical wins for Bill Parcells. And you know what happened to Phil Simms in 1994? He was cut. And who did they cut him for? Dave Brown. My point is, sometimes the tough decisions have to be made, even when they involve established veteran athletes. If they're not producing, you must make changes. And that's what Pat Shurmur did. And I find it a little coincidental that in the 3rd game of the season, the Giants, who were down 18 points, would mount a comeback and not only beat the Buccaneers, but shut them out in the second half. The Buccaneers didn't score a point against the Giant defense, whose secondary couldn't cover anybody. Even when the Buccaneers were driving for that field goal, which they wound up butchering, Janoris Jenkins wound up getting burned by O.J. Howard. Doesn't that look a little bit coincidental to you, that the rookie quarterback wound up mounting an 18-point come-from-behind victory against an NFC rival?
I can't argue what happened, right? All I can say is that, as I repeated twice, the coach saw something in this kid. He should have started. He practically came out and said it, because he was saying, because remember, when they drafted this kid at number 6, people were going, why did you draft this guy at number 6 if you could have had him at number 20?
Or in the 3rd or 4th round.
Exactly. So, that being said, he's going, I've seen this kid before. I've seen it. There's something about him that I like. And he said it. As I said before, I want this to be a competition. I want, both quarterbacks to fight for quarterback position and all that other jazz, all that other good stuff that he's trying to say. And then he says he's trying to defend his pick. And eventually you have to give up. You have to give up on your elder quarterback. You have to give up. You got to say, hey, listen, we had a nice run, but now your time is done. Now you can go to another team, or you can retire as a Giant. Now, I'm sure Eli Manning wants to play.
He definitely wants to play. He's not thinking about retirement right now.
And if anything, at least you have, if something happens to Daniel Jones, you have Eli Manning as your backup quarterback, which is great. which is a great thing.
Yep.
But I'm sure next year, Eli Manning is going to say, you know what? I don't want to be here no more. I'm going to go to another team. And imagine him going to another team. He plays against the Giants. He beats the Giants. And then all of a sudden you hear these some of the people that were against Danny Jones or at that time going, all right, that were for Eli Manning, going, oh, you know what? You shouldn't have gotten rid of him. You should have tried to keep him. But, like you said, it's no here, no there. I would have given him 3 or 4 games just to see, because he takes a long time to rev up sometimes.
And what would have happened if Eli remained the QB for those 3 or 4 games and the Giants remained winless?
You know what? He could have won. He could have lost. You don't know. I can't predict.
That's why I say what's done is done. The Giants have to move on, though. They have the Redskins coming up.
If he would have lost, that's great.
Actually, it would not have been great because the Giants would be 0-3 instead of 1-2.
But what I'm saying is, at least you gave him an honest shot. Going into 2 games, and he knows that his coach really wasn't backing him up. It was the owner that wanted him in there. When you don't have basically the blessing of your coach to say, you know what, dude, I want you to do really, really well for us. He didn't have that. So you got to remember, and as I said before, if you hear some of the things that he said, you will hear that he did not want Eli Manning. And if you know what, and since the owner has priority over everything, the coach would have traded him. If the coach would have had the opportunity to trade him to get picks and so on, he would have traded him.
I doubt anybody would have wanted a 38-year-old quarterback in exchange for draft picks.
As a backup quarterback, don't say that. You know why?
I just did because
and you're wrong.
Hector,
look at
no general manager with half a brain is that stupid to want to acquire a 38, soon-to-be 39-year-old quarterback in exchange for draft picks. The guy would be costing himself his own job.
Really?
Yes.
So you're saying that there's no place that this man can go. You mean to tell me that if the Jets wanted to save something, maybe they could take a shot at talking to the Giants and say, "Hey, let's see if Eli Manning's got something."
The Jets will never trade with the Giants.
Better than what they have now, right?
The Jets, I will tell you right now, the Jets will never make a trade with the Giants.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying.
Trades between those 2 teams have been few and far between.
I'm just saying, if they were open, I don't have a quarterback. I would say, you know what? What's it going to take for me to get Eli Manning? Because I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are going to say, you know what? With his experience and so on, he probably still has enough left in his tank. And what type of protection, like you said before, the front line? Will the front line protect him? Because he needs a stronger front line than most people. So if you have a strong front line for this guy, he will win games for you.
Hector, he's not going anywhere. I will tell you that right now.
If he doesn't, he doesn't. If he does, he does. And if he does and does something better... And
he made it loud and clear, he will only be a Giant. He wants to retire a Giant. He will not consider any other franchise. The Giants are where he wants to end his career.
Then he's going to retire as a Giant next year because he lost the starting quarterback.
Or maybe he'll retire at the end of the season. This is his walk year.
This is his walk year. And as I said before, you always say the good things. But if you start getting that itch, that, I still got it, I can play, blah, and do something on somebody else's team. And that has happened too. A player goes to another team, he flourishes for 1 year or 2 years, and that's it.
That's happened plenty of times.
And some quarterbacks, when they go to other teams, they don't. They bomb. It's a 50-50
Does the name Josh McCown ring a bell?
Yes.
Josh McCown wound up getting himself a gig in Philly as Carson Wentz's backup.
So look at that,
Speaking of the Eagles, they wound up suffering probably one of the worst losses of recent memory.
Yeah.
And that was losing to the Lions. It's gotten so bad for the Eagles now that one of their players was the subject of a news report.
How so?
Well, just a couple of days ago, one of the TV stations in Philly did a story about a fire that broke out in one of the neighborhoods, and the guy said he and a couple of his friends had to save little infants from dying in this fire, and the guy basically was saying that these infants were being dropped from windows onto their hands. And the guy said, at least we were able to catch these babies, unlike Nelson Aguilar catching the football. I'm telling you, what have you done for me lately has never applied more to any team than the Eagles.
No, they were once a powerhouse team. Now they're none. But did you hear that the Seahawks released Polite from the practice squad?
Ja'Kai Polite, you mean?
Yeah.
Yep. And also Antonio Brown wound up getting released by the Patriots, and he basically tweeted his retirement, blaming the league, blaming the owners for practically hamstringing the players when it comes to contracts.
Now, here's the thing. First, it was the helmet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then when he went to another team, he refused his bonus, his $6 million bonus that he was supposed to get. He turned that down. So I'm going, then he goes to a team, the Patriots, plays one game, all of a sudden, sexual assault.
By two women.
By two women, right? That hasn't been proven yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now, if something hasn't been proven, why should he not be playing?
Well, first of all, he basically said that he doesn't want to play anymore because he's getting sick and tired of being jerked around by the owners. And second of all, the reason why the Patriots released him is because the Patriots run the single tightest ship in professional sports. Anybody who has even the slightest hint of a checkered past, they will not consider them. I mean, look what happened with Aaron Hernandez. They found out that he killed a couple of people. He was out in the street and in a jail cell.
But he had mental problems. Antonio Brown doesn't seem to have mental problems. But my point is that, let's say there have been people that have had a checkered past in their life, and they clean up their act. There have been people that have checkered past that continue to do stupid things, and they don't belong in the football game, you know?
Right.
But my point is, if, it's not proven that he's done this. He hasn't gone to court yet. And because the team doesn't want the aggravation of going, you know what, we don't want to bother answering questions, and we don't want protests because this is the year or the day or the years of the protest, because every person that they protest, people protest about everything. They want, because we become so paperish that we can't take certain things anymore.
Speaking of which, you should have seen Bill Belichick at his press conferences last week. He was so furious and aggravated with every single question that was asked to him about Antonio Brown that he just stormed out of his press conference. And then yesterday, halftime of the Jet game, he was doing an interview with Dana Jacobson. And naturally, Dana Jacobson did her job. She asked him about Antonio Brown, and all he did was say, we're just going to focus on the Jets. And then he gave her the dirtiest look. I swear, he probably would have wanted to kill her.
Now, if you notice, when you go to that team, you know what you're getting. And I'm sure he would have straightened up his act. Because he scored a touchdown for them and everything.
Right?
Now, again, because Bill Pellet, and I don't know why this man isn't fined or something, because, you know, when you show up at a press conference, you're supposed to say something. Not just go, you know what, I'm here, now I'm leaving because I don't like the questions. And
you know why? Because it's Bill Belichick, that's why.
They don't want to touch this guy for some strange reason. Now,
you know what you're going to get with the guy. He's never had any tolerance for the media, first of all. And second of all, he runs, along with the owner, tightest ship, not just in the NFL, but professional sports.
But didn't you also say that he wanted to get rid of Tom Brady?
He did want to get rid of Tom Brady, but the reason why is because he thought Tom Brady was in the twilight of his career and he wanted a younger quarterback to try and win with. But it was the owner that wanted Tom Brady on the roster. And what's going on right now? Tom Brady is now in his 20th NFL season, and it looks like, well, he looks like he could play another 4 or 5 years for all I know, because he still looks fantastic out there. I don't know what these people are saying, that this guy's declining in skill set. I don't see any decline whatsoever. I mean, is he getting older? Naturally he is. But at the same time, he hasn't missed a step.
Is there a Cam Newton, Kyrie Allen controversy?
A Cam Newton...
Allen.
A Cam Newton, Kyle Allen controversy. Well, knowing how Cam likes to stir the pot a little bit, there probably is.
Because they're saying, is this the end of the Cam era in Carolina?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Panthers getting a victory against the Cardinals yesterday with Kyle Allen, the quarterback, the backup quarterback. But when you think about it, Cam Newton is a big, strong guy, but he has not necessarily been the most healthy guy the last few years. Naturally, the Panthers are going to have to go with somebody who can right the ship while Newton is gone. But let's face facts here. Cam Newton's been around, what? This is his 9th NFL season? And Kyle Allen, he just got here. So naturally, there's going to be some talk about Kyle Allen maybe being Cam Newton's heir apparent. Replacement, yeah. Not only that, but Cam Newton's got a whole bunch of injuries, specifically shoulder injuries, that he's still trying to recover from.
Well, I've got to tell you that
and it's not just Kyle Allen either. It's the newest sensation that's playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. He's a kid from Washington State. Minshew is the kid's last name. And he's yeah. Let me find out a little bit more about the guy.
Yeah, while you're doing that, let me tell you.
Gardner Minshew is the kid's name.
Yeah.
He actually bounced around 3 different colleges. He started out at junior college, and I think after that he went to one of the Big Ten schools, and then he wound up finishing up at Washington State. And all he did was come away with one big win, and all of a sudden, he has become a sensation. Let's see, he played for Northwest Mississippi Community College, then went to East Carolina for 2 years, then finished up at Washington State. He's a Mississippi born and raised kid, and he's already come away with one big victory. He was actually drafted this past spring. 6th round pick, 178th overall. And it was against the Texans that Gardner Minshew wound up coming away with a big win. Oh, correction, not the Texans, the Tennessee Titans. On Thursday Night Football, the Jaguars wound up beating the Titans. And now they're basically making this kid the second coming of Mark Brunell down in Jacksonville. Because Nick Foles, unfortunately, suffered a season-ending injury. And Minshew was brought into the game, and so far he's looked reasonably well.
Well, like I said, you can find a kid anywhere you want, anywhere at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
But here you go. In soccer, you have CR7 didn't vote for Messi in Best Player Award.
That's Cristiano Ronaldo. He didn't make Lionel Messi one of his 3 best players on his ballot. Is there anything that surprises us about Cristiano Ronaldo? The guy's so full of it, first of all. Full of himself, I might add. I mean, he could be like a carbon copy of you.
Well, that's right, because we have achieved great heights.
No, he's achieved great heights. Your claim to fame is winning some freaking title and then never wrestling again.
With everything humanly possible that we've done. So with him, he can say all that because he has done it all. He was and still is one of the best players of this era.
One of the best players of this era, but there's a scarlet letter on each of them. Neither has won a World Cup for their country.
Well, like I said, they have the stats, but they don't have the actual crown,
Mm-hmm.
And neither did the Dolphin quarterback. What's his name? Mario. The Dolphin quarterback. What is his name?
You mean the current Dolphins quarterback?
No, the one from years ago.
Are you talking about Dan Marino?
Yeah, Dan Marino. Had all the stats in the world, but didn't win the Super Bowl. Same thing with these guys.
And after playing in a Super Bowl his second year, we all thought that kid was destined for a whole bunch of titles down the road. But unfortunately, he could never win the big one in the playoffs.
And, just like these guys. But in other news, you had our Governor Cuomo, breaking ground on the new Islanders arena.
Yeah, which is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, I know it's going to be back on Long Island. It's going to be not too far from Belmont Park.
Yep, and the Yankees win. The Yankees win the American League East.
Yes, they did. And right now, they have 5 games left. They've got the Rays and the Rangers on the road.
And the
The
Astros
Yankees
have
want
6 games.
home field advantage in the American League playoffs.
But as you said before, sometimes having the home field is not like it used to be.
No, it's not. Not in any sport. Home field advantage does not guarantee a series. It helps, but it won't guarantee. And anybody who says differently, look at the Super Bowl teams that won only on the road, didn't play one single home game. The Steelers, the Packers, the 2007 title that the Giants won, all on the road.
Yeah, because sometimes when you play and lose in your house, when you lose in somebody else's house, it's not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing in someone else's house, it's more free going. You can say, "Oh, the hell with it! I'm going to do it now." And
I can even give you an NBA team that won an NBA title by not having home court advantage in any series. The Houston Rockets, 1995. They were the road team and the underdog against the Jazz, the Suns, the Spurs, and the Magic. And they won their second title.
And now the Mets, do they still have a chance?
It's slim now. There's only the magic number is 3 to eliminate them. And right now the Mets are playing the Marlins in Citi Field, and already the Marlins have the edge on the Mets in the game. The score is
back are they?
The score is 1-0. And
How
for the
far
record,
back?
the Mets are 4.5 games behind that second wild card spot. Quite frankly, I don't see Milwaukee giving this up. As a matter of fact, I think Milwaukee takes that second spot because the magic number. Well, first off, Milwaukee has a rather soft schedule to end the season. They have Cincinnati and Colorado on the road. And number 2, ever since ever since Christian Yelich wound up getting hurt, the Brewers have been a better team. They've pitched better, they've gotten key hits, and now the Brewers have 6 games to try and take that second spot so they can play the Washington Nationals.
Well, I can say this much. There is big controversy in basketball nowadays for the New York area.
Yeah, and there's also rumors, too.
Should KD come back this year? And 2, will they trade Frank Nikita after playing such great basketball in the International League?
You're talking about the World Cup of basketball.
That one.
That's not an international league. That's
bunch
countries going up against each other. As far as Kevin Durant is concerned, he has to make a miraculous recovery if he's going to want to play at any time this season.
At the end of the season.
At the very end of the season.
Play. He should give up the season and because he may get hurt again. I mean, if it takes a year, it all depends how he feels, You always have to go by what your body does and what the doctors say, because I'm sure they have the best doctors because they have the best money.
Mm-hmm.
But
as far as Frank Ntilikina is concerned, I was never a fan of the kid. He has no offensive game. He has major problems trying to create shots for himself or for teammates. He'll make a stand for them defensively every once in a while, but other than that, the kid is just one-dimensional. Should they trade for him? Only they can decide that.
There have been
Will they trade for him?
Teams. There have been a couple of one-dimensional players on basketball teams, so that's not being one-dimensional is not so bad.
Yes, but in order to make a contribution, you need to score points.
Yeah.
And Frank Ntilikina has scored no more than 4 points a game in either of his 2 seasons.
But what's he doing in the World Cup? He's doing a lot more in the World Cup.
Well, obviously, he's a member of the national team.
Right. So that's why it's a big controversy. Now, Frazier says, Clyde Frazier is confident that Miller will find a new team in 2019 2020 season.
It's not going to be the Brooklyn Nets, that's for sure. They made it loud and clear that they're not bringing him in. And even in spite of the players vouching for him, he's not going to Brooklyn.
You know,
and if he really wants to be on somebody's roster, he needs to shape up. Otherwise, he's going to ship out, which means accept a lesser role.
I'm sure he's going to have to now. I'm sure he has to. But now they're revisiting tampering allegations under Phil Jackson. And also, the league, the basketball has gone crazy with tampering. All these restrictions, all these things, all these rules that they have for the restrictions.
Let me tell you, tampering is no joke. You say even the slightest thing, you're going to get your team in trouble.
Yes, but the point is, how do you go about it, and how do you know it's tampering? Because
don't say a word about them. Don't mention their names. And if they ask you, say, I have no comment. How difficult is that?
Here's the thing, all right? LeBron James is friends with practically everybody in the world, right?
Of course.
And if he has a number of AD, right?
Yeah.
How you doing? How's everything? I see that you're playing great. We're playing okay too. Is that tampering?
If he talks about it to the media, then yes, it's definitely tampering. But if he keeps it to himself, that's another thing.
Because they'll say, you know, I talked to him and we just had a good conversation about how's life. Now they're going to restrict even that.
If he keeps it to himself, that's one thing. But if he babbles about it to the media, that is tampering.
By saying that we were just talking about life?
Even by mentioning his name. You just don't do it.
You know, people will say, then how, you know, then if they're at a club or eating together, that's tampering because they're not supposed to be eating because the paparazzi will take a picture and go, oh, look, they must be planning something together. I mean, these guys are friends. And when you're friends, what are you going to say? Oh, you got to cut them out while the season starts, but at the end of the season, then you can talk? That's ridiculous.
Hey, they make those rules, not us, so it is what it is.
Some of the rules that they've installed are out of this world.
Well, I have a couple of NBA stuff that I want to share with you.
Shoot.
One is this really ridiculous rumor that Dwayne Wade wanted to come out of retirement so he could suit up on the Lakers and play with LeBron for the last time. And second, a Devin Booker to the Oklahoma City Thunder trade by the Phoenix Suns.
What do you think of it?
I think Booker would be an outstanding go-to scorer that the Thunder would need now that the cupboard is bare in OKC. But for the Suns, it would make 0 sense. And for Dwayne Wade, he always keeps himself in good shape. We'd have to hear it from him to see if he really wants to be back. Because from what I understood, he had the jitters about leaving the game.
Well, I can say this much: if you want to have a chance of winning, the West is not the best place to be because the West is so stacked.
Mm-hmm.
But if he wants to play with his friends, go to it like you did a couple of years ago. Go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you still got it.
Unfortunately, we're out of time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hector Bosa, the hottest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV, which Jamie's jealous of. And Jamie, take it away.
For everyone here, for Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night.
Good night.